welcome to Pluribus Unum's Fireside Chats. Not as good as FDR's, but hey, it's something. Now, before I get into the main topic of the video, I may do a bit of house cleaning and say, like, hey, if an episode doesn't get released this week of the regularly scheduled videos, it's just, college is very difficult. Hopefully I'll get it done. It's not even that long, it's just I haven't had the time to edit it together. Now, let's get into the news. Kyrsten Sinema's anti-war activist past under scrutiny as she runs for Senate. Democrat Representative Kyrsten Sinema's past ties to far-left groups are resurfacing as she campaigns with Arizona's Senate race against a Republican opponent, Martha McSally. Sinema is running on her congressional record as a hawk on military spending and defense, proclaiming in an ad that she would do whatever it takes to keep America safe and boasting that she fought for billions for military spending. But the Democratic Congresswoman has also had an extensive past as a progressive activist. Her events in association in opposing the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan, and her early years as a Democratic lawmaker in Arizona frequently brought her into groups on the left-wing fringe, like a K-File review finds. Now, many people look at this and say, hey, hold on a second, Kyrsten. You, back in your early activism days, you were part of Green Party and you supported Ralph Nader and you hated the war. What's going on? It's nonsense, because she's a war hawk now. She is a war hawk. She's a war hawk. It's just, why would you... She used to be this big progressive activist. Now she's not. She gave that up. Because she's like... I think I checked it on GovTrack, and it shows that she's like the furthest right Democrat in the House. I think there's potential for her to give Joe Manchin money if she give Joe Manchin a run for his money if she wins the Senate seat. Kind of wish Raul Grijalva ran for the Senate seat, not you. But, you know. Next story. Michael Bloomberg re-registers as a Democrat. Michael Bloomberg, the billionaire former New York City mayor and potential 2020 presidential candidate, announced on Wednesday that he re-registered as a Democrat, saying that the party must provide the checks and balances our nation needs badly. At key points in U.S. history, one of the two parties has serviced the bulwark against those who threaten our Constitution, Bloomberg wrote in an early morning Instagram post. 2 years at the Democratic Convention, I warned of those threats. Today, I've re-registered as a Democrat. I had been a member for most of my life because we need Democrats to provide the checks and balances that our nation so badly needs. Now, this is just an indication Bloomberg's running. I mean, I'm just going to say it. Bloomberg wouldn't have re-registered as a Democrat if he wasn't planning a 2020 run. Now, that brings into another question. Who's going to run against him? Who's going to be the progressive running against him? Because, again, that's also a debate question. Like, people are saying, like, Gabbard, Warren, Sanders, Kucinich, or whoever would run. Everybody pretty much agrees they all can't run at once. So, they're going to pick one. Who do you think it should be? But yeah. And also Bloomberg, newsflash, nobody wants you to run. Nobody does. Look, I'm being serious. Look, think about it. Bloomberg, the guy whose biggest legislative accomplishment is banning big gulps. Who likes him? Left-wingers think, no, that's stupid. Why would you ban big gulps? Centrists say, well, he's a centrist, but, you know, he does stupid stuff like ban big gulps. Who cares about big gulps? But right-wingers, they actually get to spin it in a different way. They actually get to say, oh, Bloomberg, you don't care about freedom? In my America, people will be free to drink as many big gulps as they desire. So, yeah. If Bloomberg runs and gets the nomination, Trump 2020, or Booker, or Harris, if it's not Sanders or progressive like him, it's just not going to get results. Next story. Trump denies offering $1 million for a Warren DNA test, even though he did. President Trump on Monday denied that he offered Senator Elizabeth Warren $1 million to take a test proving her Native American heritage, even though he did just that. Trump spoke after Warren responded to the president's challenge and released the results of a DNA test showing that she has a distant Native American ancestor. I didn't say that. You better read it again. It's like, people have been giving Warren like a lot of shit for this for some reason. Like, ooh, she had her DNA test prove that she has a small aspect of Native American in her. Ooh, who cares? I mean, like, I was skeptical of Elizabeth Warren being Native American. I was like, are you sure? And then she does DNA tests and says, look, I am Native American. It's like, oh, okay. Like, I have some Native American in me, I guess. I haven't done a formal DNA test. I've been told that I have, like, Cherokee in me. But then again, I also heard that that's the common one. Like, oh, I had a Cherokee great-grandfather or something. But, you know, it's just... That's just whatever. I mean, if I get a DNA test and it finds out I'm not Native American, I'll be like, okay, I mean, I was wrong. But that's the thing, like, Warren, she proved, yes, she has some Native American in her. End of story. You lose. And whoever was like, Warren's Native American, she wins. The next story is coming out of West Virginia. Blankenship endorses ex-West Virginia GOP Senate rival, calls him a lying drug lobbyist. Former coal company CEO Don Blankenship on Friday endorsed his former GOP Senate rival, Patrick Morrisey, while calling him a lying out-of-state drug lobbyist. Blankenship, who lost the Republican primary in May, swiped the West Virginia Attorney General and GOP Senate nominee while endorsing him over incumbent Joe Manchin. I told the audience that I would be voting for Patrick Morrisey because West Virginia and America must have Donald Trump. And if it's Morrisey that Trump wants, I will vote for him. Now, many people have mixed feelings about this. Here's my mixed feeling. One, I mean, Don Blankenship was... Here's the thing about the West Virginia Senate race. You can endorse any of the candidates except for one, and you'll get, like, conservative. Endorse Joe Manchin, you get a conservative Democrat. Endorse Don Blankenship, you get a paleo-conservative. Endorse Patrick Morrisey? Yeah. I don't know why I was blanking on him. I literally just read his name. You get a neoconservative. And endorse the Libertarian Party candidate. You get, like, a libertarian, which is, like, kind of like the socially accepting conservative. The conservative that likes gay people. Except for Mark, whatever his last name is, who's running as an independent Democrat, who's the progressive running in the race. I think the Mountain Party should endorse him so that he can get, like, a ballot line, but whatever. Next story, coming out from New York. New York man arrested for threatening to kill 2 U.S. senators over backing Supreme Court Justice Brett Kavanaugh. New York resident Ronald DeRisi was arrested Friday for allegedly threatening to murder and assault 2 U.S. senators over their support for the successful nomination of Brett Kavanaugh. The arrest comes 2 days after the husband of Senator Suzanne Collins said that he received a letter that claimed to contain the deadly toxin ricin, which also mentioned her vote to confirm Kavanaugh to the High Court. Now, that's fucked up, man. Like, I don't care what your thoughts on Brett Kavanaugh were. That's no. If I'm gonna guess who he was trying to kill, because I read the story and I don't think it explains who the senators were. I believe the more common idea is that people are like thinking that it could be is Suzanne Collins and Joe Manchin because they were like the deciding votes. So yeah, it's really screwed up, especially coming right after like the Proud Boys like did a thing where they beat up some left wingers. So yeah, the next story, a story that's not covered that much. WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange sues Ecuador for violating his rights. Julian Assange is launching legal action against Ecuador, accusing its government of violating his fundamental rights and freedoms. It comes after Ecuador cut off communications for Mr. Assange, who has been living inside the country's London embassy for more than 6 years. I'm fully on Assange's side, because Assange does good things. The WikiLeaks, it does good things. You can't deny that it doesn't. It exposes governments for lying. Why would anybody be against it? And I'll tell you what, think about it. If you go on the street and you tell someone, hey, there's somebody leaking government information that exposes corrupt government officials, are they going to say, oh, I don't like them? No. That's because, like, the people want the government to be transparent. But through the corporate media, they portray, like, Assange as, like, a weirdo, a creepy guy. And they're like, ooh, Julian Assange is... No. We don't like Julian Assange. But Julian Assange is a good thing. Like, he's a good guy. And he should be freed. So next story. Governor Bill Walker drops out of Alaska gubernatorial race less than 3 weeks before the election. The independent governor endorsed his Democratic opponent, former Senator Mark Begich, who is now in a tight race with Republican Mike Dunleavy. Alaskan Governor Bill Walker suspends his re-election campaign on Friday. Walker, an independent, first announced the news at an Alaskan Federation of Natives conference and elaborated on his decision in an Instagram post. Every decision I have made as your governor, I have made on the basis of what I believe is best for Alaska. With that said, effective today, I am suspending my campaign for re-election as governor. With more time, I am confident that Lieutenant Governor Valerie Davidson and I could deliver a message that in a campaign that could earn a victory in this election. But there are only 18 days remaining before election day. In the time remaining, I believe we cannot win a three-way race. Yeah. The polls weren't really in Walker's favor, so many people were pretty much saying, yeah, you should drop out. And, well, he did. Clearly shows he did. So anyways, there's not much to me really say. I don't know much about Bill Walker except that he was like a super like, oh, I'm a centrist. I'm an enlightened centrist. So another speaking of candidates, legal cannabis candidate endorses Keith Ellison for Attorney General. A third-party candidate for Minnesota Attorney General is endorsing Democrat Keith Ellison in a tight race. Noah Johnson, a Minneapolis attorney who's running for the grassroots legalized cannabis party, said in an interview Sunday that he is throwing his support behind Keith Ellison because the congressman called for the legalization of marijuana. So, this is something like not new. Keith Ellison has been supportive of legalizing weed, and I was thinking like, hey, if the Legal Marijuana Now Party is doing this, why don't they just endorse other candidates that are for legalizing weed, like Paula Overby? She's running in the Minnesota Senate race, and the Legal Marijuana Now Party is still running candidates against her. But, you know, whatever. The Legal Marijuana Now Party can do what they want. It's their campaign. There's like multiple legal marijuana parties. Like, there's the Legal Marijuana Now Party and the Grassroots Legalized Cannabis Party. They're both on the ballot in Minnesota. They've kind of been like co-aligning together. Like, they've kind of been together for like the entirety of the thing. So anyways, now on to the political party of the day. Connecticut for Lieberman. Yeah, it doesn't have a party in its name, it's just Connecticut for Lieberman. It was a Connecticut political party created by 25 supporters of Senator Joe Lieberman. The party was created to enable Lieberman to run for re-election following his defeat in the 2006 Connecticut Democratic primary. In the succeeding general election, Lieberman received 49.7% of the popular vote, beating out Democrat Ned Lamott and Republican Alan Schleicher. So, pretty much here's what happened. Joe Lieberman was a very controversial Democrat due to the fact that he was a conservative Democrat who was like, no, I'm a centrist. I'm a centrist, guys. So, they pretty much, like, the Democrats are pretty much like, hey, you know, this guy is kind of like just supporting a bunch of Republicans. Maybe we should primary him. So they primaried a more, like someone who's to the left of Lieberman. Don't know explicitly if he was like super left wing, like a progressive, or if he was just like your average, not so progressive Democrat. But he pretty much was like pretty much Lieberman was like, hey, no, you can't primary me. I'm like the big guy. And then he lost his primary. And then 25 Lieberman supporters were so butthurt. They were like, you think you can get rid of Lieberman? How about we make our own party to let Lieberman win? So they ran a party specifically with the ideology of pro-Joe Lieberman. Like, it was just Lieberman. They just wanted Joe Lieberman still as their candidate. So they primaried them, and then Lieberman continued, like, and he won. And then Lieberman was like, hey, Democrats, if you guys aren't gonna, like, keep me around, I'm gonna join be an independent in the Senate. How do you like me now? And then people were like, hey, hold on a second, Joe. You can't do that. But he's been an independent ever since 2006. And yet, for some reason, people still, like, look at him for Democratic Party advice. Like with the Joe Crowley thing, he's endorsing Joe Crowley for re-election, even though Crowley stated like, oh, I'm not in the race anymore, technically. Not really. Joe Lieberman's like, come on, guys, you gotta move closer to the center. It's like, oh boy. And I'm pretty sure there are people who still think like Lieberman is a good person to actually pay attention to. So anyways, now on to the topic. Republicans, I don't like them. End of episode. Anyway, but for real though, Republicans, I'm not too fond of the Republican Party. You may know, you may not. But yeah, I am not too fond of the Democratic. I'm not. I was so much on a Democratic hate streak. I was trying to hate on them while I was hating on the See, I did it again. I'm so used to saying like I hate the Democratic Party that I just, whenever I try to say I hate the Republican Party, it just happens. But I hate the Republican Party too. And like, basically, the thing is, I'm not a fan of either party, but this is the Republican episode. Probably another time I'm gonna do like my least favorite Democrats, and Lieberman may or may not be on there. But anyways, these guys, these are the ones that I like. Like, I like some Republicans and some Democrats and a lot of third party guys, but these are the Republicans that I actually like, or at least hate. Or like, basically the criteria is I have to agree with their platform a certain amount, and or like something about them that is interestingly like a thing. McCain kind of becomes an honorable mention because at one point I did put him as like my favorite Republican, but it was just kind of based on superficial reasons, and like, he was dying of cancer, so I kind of felt like I needed to put him there. But he's kind of like an honorable mention, I guess. But anyways, first, they're divided into 4 categories. The dead ones, the ones who aren't Republican anymore, the ones that ran for office but never got elected, and the current elected officials. So first, the dead ones. Number 9, Dwight D. Eisenhower. He's basically like the big moderate like guy from the presidency. Like, he's just the big classic moderate Republican from back in the day when those were very common. Number 8, Abraham Lincoln freed the slaves. What more is there to say? Number 7, John C. Fremont. He wanted to free the slaves and was super abolitionist. What else is there to say? Number 6, Margaret Chase Smith. There actually is a bit more to say here. Like, she's kind of like, she was the senator from Maine for a while. That may be a hint for a future person on the list. But she was like a huge proponent against McCarthyism. Like, she was one of the earliest critics of McCarthyism, and she was in the same party as Joseph McCarthy. That is big. Number 5, Charles Goodell. During his tenure in the House, he was very, very conservative. But during his tenure in the Senate, he went like, that shift to the left went. In fact, his shift to the left was so drastic and so sudden, many people like compared him to a transgender. Because they're like, you transition from this and now you're this? That's weird. So, and many people even speculate, like, why did he do it? He was filling in for Bobby Kennedy. That's probably a big thing. Number 4, Hiram Johnson. I've already told you all about Hiram Johnson. Super progressive guy. Next. Robert M. La Follette Jr., again, super progressive. Next. Robert M. La Follette Sr., again, super progressive. Next. Teddy Roosevelt, one of the OG big progressives in the entirety of the United States. What else is there to say that I haven't said already? Now, here are the ones that are not Republican now, but used to be Republicans. There are really only 3. Number 3, Lincoln Chafee. Now, Lincoln Chafee's kind of an interesting one because he actually ran in the 2016 Democratic primary, while he was still more moderate than most other Democrats, like, ever, he had a lot of good points, like end drone strikes, bring the troops home, fair trade, and, like, he was the furthest left Republican at the time of when he was in the Senate, according to GovTrack. And he was pretty much like, if Lawrence Lessig and Bernie Sanders weren't in the race, would I have supported Chafee? Maybe. I don't know. You'll never know. Ooh. But at least Lincoln Chafee got... No, wait, I don't think Lincoln Chafee got any votes, actually. Oh boy. Number 2, Gary Johnson. The OG, like, the man who said Bill Weld was the original libertarian. He's, interesting. Like, Gary Johnson's a quirky man, of course. But he was also a very, like, I still think he's, like, the most sane libertarian by far. Like, for real, though. But, I mean, he still had, like, a lot of weird quirks. And number 1, the one that pretty much everybody expected, Ron Paul. Ron Paul, like, the big, like, the pretty much capital libertarian his whole life, capital L libertarian his whole life, even when he was a Republican. Very consistently libertarian on a lot of things. And since I'm a civil libertarian, I'm nuts for some of it. I go nuts for all of it, but nuts for good, but good nuts for some of them, and bad nuts for some of the others. So those are those guys. Now these are the political candidates that never held public office in the entirety of their lifetimes. Number 2, Fred Karger. Fred Karger is an interesting fellow. He ran as the Log Cabin Republican, trying to legalize gay marriage in 2012. That takes a lot of guts, though, for real. We can't deny. He was pretty much running as the anti-Romney candidate. He was super against, like, the Church of Latter-day Saints. He was, like super for gay marriage and all that jazz. And he even opposed the U.S.'s nation building and tried to lower the voting age to 16. Heaven knows I would have wanted that in 2016. I would have wanted to be able to vote in 2016. And Fred Karger could have given me that. In fact, go on our campaigns, the website where you can create an account just to endorse people in the past. I made my own. It's called Pluribus Unum. Go to the 2012 Republican primaries. Look who I endorsed. Fred Karger is also very unique because he didn't withdraw from the race until let me explain. During the Republican primaries in 2012, as the race was going out, a lot of people were dropping out. Buddy Roemer dropped out, Gary Johnson dropped out, Herman Cain dropped out, Michelle Bachmann dropped out, and Ron Paul got a lot of media attention because he refused to drop out, until the convention. Well, Fred Karger, he didn't withdraw until after the convention. He was holding out a lot longer than Ron Paul. Even though technically, yeah, you would say, well, if the convention already decided that he was the candidate, so why would Fred Karger even care? Fair point. But you also can't deny, Well, you see, he was so anti-Romney, he was still running after the convention. The next one is an obvious one. Rob Ryers, the brand new Congress-endorsed neo-bull moose Republican. What else is there to say, really? And now, the moment you've all been waiting for, the current office holders. And here's the shock of all shocks. There are only 6 Republicans that I like. Well, again, we'll get into, like, some of these are they're the least bad. Here, speaking of the least bad, let's start off with the worst one here. Walter B. Jones Jr. He's a libertarian, paleoconservative Republican, meaning that on the things that we agree on are trade, weed, and foreign policy, but we massively disagree on gay rights, economy, and immigration. He is also known for one more thing that you may or may not know. Now, first, let me set the stage. You're going to McDonald's. You go, and then Walter B. Jones is like the McDonald's guy. He's like, "Hello, how can I help you, sir?" And you say, "Hello, would I like some French fries?" French fries? Don't you mean freedom fries? That's right. Walter B. Jones was one of the 2 congressmen who actually got the term French fries changed to freedom fries in the cafeteria of Congress or the UN. I think it was the UN. And that's even especially weird because he is like he did that because he was for the Iraq War, and then France was like, "No, the Iraq War is a stupid idea," and he was like, "No, France, you're stupid. I'm gonna change it from French fries to freedom fries. Now let's see how you like it." France got the last laugh because Walter B. Jones became an anti-interventionist. Like, now he's super non-interventionist now. Military action? No, thank you. And another tidbit that shows that he is a good thing. Like, here's the thing. NORML, the National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws, they have a website, of course, where they give congressional report cards showing which congressmen are the best in regards to weed and the worst. Well, currently, out of all of North Carolina delegates, the highest rated one is Walter B. Jones with a B+. All the Democrats got a B, and all the Republicans are C and below. But I mean, again, aside from Walter B. Jones. So he's also running unopposed in his election. So even if nobody turns out to vote, they're probably just gonna give him the win. Number 5, Mike Lee. Mike Lee's like your average libertarian Republican, like a conservative libertarian. You know, like he's like the one thing he's not libertarian about is abortion, pretty much. He's like pro-life, like extensively pro-life, but not like he's not like pro-life. He's not like most libertarians are like pro-choice because they don't want the government to be involved in abortion in either way. Like they don't want them to have state-sanctioned abortion. They don't want them to ban abortion. Mike Lee, I think, is more of the pro-life jazz, but he's also got a very big stint on, like, one of the big things that makes him, like, really good for me is the biggest bill of the year for me. HR 5515, i.e., the huge military budget increase. Mike Lee is the only Republican to have voted no on the bill all 3 times they had to vote. The first time when they had to pass the bill to get passed, the second time when they got the conference report, and then the third time when the bill actually became law. He voted no all 3 times. Even like Rand Paul, he only voted no on it twice, and then the other one he abstained. So Lee's got some advantages. Number 4, Suzanne Collins, the furthest left Republican in the House and the Senate. She has very good votes on a lot of things. Immigration, abortion, gay marriage, I think. She is coming out to be more and more of a hypocrite due to the things of like, oh, I'm for term limits, but I've been in the Senate for like a million years. So, and the recent Kavanaugh confirmation, where she legitimately was like, yeah, I know that this guy could potentially be a rapist, but, you know, I think I'm gonna vote yes. Oof. That isn't going well for her because, like, and I think her and, like, Toby Jones, they've also been, like, consistently voted, like, 26% on conservative, like things. She's got, like, the lowest approval rating of all Republican senators in the ACU, I believe. So she's got like a lot of like her popularity was very her popularity dropped, obviously, but you know, it comes with the job. Number 3, Rand Paul. Rand Paul. Wow, what a shock. What did the Pauls manage to get it here? There's this joke that I always get reminded of every time I mention Rand and Ron Paul. It's like Ron and Rand, they're just like the Bushes. The father ran for president, the son ran for president. They're like the Bushes, except they forgot about the part where they're supposed to win. I stole that from Seamus Coughlin from Freedom Tunes. He didn't put it in his Freedom Tunes. He put it in like an older thing he did. But like, yeah, Rand, he's got like legal weed, ending the wars, getting rid of the Patriot Act, and instituting term limits. What is there not to love about him? Economics, abortion, guns, and his perplexing view on LGBT rights. I say perplexing because it'd be one thing if he was because here's the thing, it's like, on one hand, he's a libertarian about it, and on the other hand, he's a social conservative. What I mean by that is, like, on one hand, Rand Paul is voting, like, to consistently, like, free the gays, let them be gay and have them get married to whoever they want. But then on the other hand, he's defended, like, states' rights to, like, ban gay marriage. That doesn't really sound too libertarian to me. Now, let me explain my viewpoint on that, even though libertarians usually are, like, for states' rights. Like, don't libertarians believe, like, super, like, this is the thing everybody, like, especially libertarians believe, like, the government can't give freedoms, they can only take freedom, like, no, wait. It's like, yeah, that's the thing. Wait. Hold on, I think I just disproved myself. So, like, why would they allow the government to take away the gay people's freedoms in that situation, the freedom to get married, shouldn't that be like a libertarian, like, wet dream? Having the government off their back? Doesn't really sound too libertarian to outright ban a gay person's right to marry. Now, of course, these also got a lot of things about, like, people have been trying to call them out, like, ooh, why did you say that the Civil Rights Act of 1964 was a bad idea? To which for some reason, libertarians are like, oh, I don't get what the big deal is. It's like, guys, even if you were ideologically opposed to it, you can't say that. You can't say the thing that ended segregation is a bad idea. Like, you could say, oh, well, this piece of legislation, I believe, was a government oversight that was a good thing, but I just don't want any more. Look, just say that and you are still ideologically pure. There, I solved your problem. Just say you like this piece of legislation, but don't want any more. Boom. I saved it. But back to Rand. Rand Paul. Ayn Rand Paul. By the way, Ron had to confirm that that's not why he named him Rand. Danny Rand is actually why he named him that. He loves Iron Fist. What if I found out that was actually true? Like, ring ring, hello? Pluribus Unum? Rand? Rand Paul, what are you doing here? You found out my secret. I'm gonna have to kill you. What? No, you can't do that. Well, I mean, it's my right. I have a gun. Dang it, Rand. But anyways, like, Rand is, like, seen as the ideal Republican. Cal Kalinske considers him his favorite Republican, which gives him into that big dream scenario of, like, what if my least favorite Democrat was facing off against my favorite Republican? What do I do then? Who do I vote for then? But Rand isn't my favorite Republican. Granted, he is, like, very frequently speaks out against, like, the U.S. imperialism. There's one thing that's just gonna... It's another reason why I just can't like Rand. Because if I just look up at the taller, white-haired man next to him, I see a much better version of him. Rand Paul, I'm not my dad, but hey. Like, that's the thing I literally pointed out, like, at one point in my head while I was just thinking to myself. Like, I was thinking, like, what are people's viewpoints about Rand versus Ron Paul? And I've already thought of it. If you're a person who leans to the right, you think that Rand is the better Paul. If you're literally everybody else, you think Ron is better. Because, you know, Ron is at least like Ron is personally pro-life, but he's like, but if the government tried to ban abortion, he'd be like, well, no, I think that's wrong. You can't ban abortion. Or at least that's what I think he does. But anyways, the next one, number 2, Justin Amash. Well, of course, economics, guns, and abortion is where we butt heads. But out of pretty much every single one of the libertarian-leaning Republicans in the House or the Senate, Amash is the one I believe is the most ideologically pure. In fact, if Amash just flat out said tomorrow that he's going to change his party affiliation to Libertarian, I wouldn't mind. I wouldn't care really, but I would. I mean, what I mean is I would have expected it. Pretty much everybody expects Amash to just one day just be like, you know what, screw it, I can't be a Republican anymore, I'm a Libertarian. You know, because he's a frequent voice against the U.S.'s imperialism. He frequently speaks out against marijuana prohibition and the NSA surveillance. He's teamed up with many progressive Democrats like Tulsi Gabbard to create like pieces of legislation that'll benefit most people. Like, that's another thing. That's the thing that shows if you're a decent Republican. If you can actually like look past all the socialist Democrats and actually work with them. Granted, Amash did do one vote that I think is just really, really bad. You see, there was a vote because this kind of gets sad slightly, the suicide hotline. The suicide hotline is, of course, like this very long number, and if you, that's why everybody's got to plaster it everywhere, because if we don't plaster it everywhere, someone who's suicidal won't know the number, and they won't be able to call the suicide hotline and get help. But there was a vote in the House and the Senate. I believe it was just the House, but I think it was both houses. I think it was both chambers in Congress, but I believe it was probably just the House first. The House had to vote to make the suicide hotline 3 digits, which makes sense. If you want it to be easier to remember for people to know, make it 3 digits. Amash was the only person in the House to vote no. I assume it was due to government oversight or something, which is actually another thing that I have to give something about Amash credit for. Amash, he explains literally every single vote he does. Every single vote that he casts, he apparently gives an explanation. And Amash's Wikipedia article is actually really funny. It's got a really hilarious thing about like Amash and his voting record, because Amash's voting record is, aside from, very libertarian, he's also very persistent. Let me read it. He is chairman of the House Liberty Caucus and is associated with the Tea Party movement. Amash has been described and self-identifies as a libertarian Republican. He was described as a diligent member of Congress and a stickler for the rules who has never missed a vote in Congress. Amash missed his first vote in March 2017 after 6 years as a U.S. representative. Come on. It literally just proved him wrong. It's literally like, I never miss a vote. Amash missed his first vote blank. Oh boy, Amash. Gotta give him credit where credit's due. If he missed just one vote, if 6 years as a congressman, and only then he misses a vote, good call. And granted, he also voted against Flint, Michigan, getting funding to fix their pipelines, but he also lives in Michigan, so it's fine. He gets to drink the dirty water too. So yeah, out of all the libertarian-minded ones in the Congress, he's the one I like the most, really, and the one that I desperately actually want him to flip gold. And it seems very likely, because many people are even speculating that he could run for president under the Libertarian Party. Many libertarians want him to run, and I'd be on board with him if he ran. Now, lastly, number 1. You probably expected this. You probably know who it is. Lisa Murkowski, second furthest left Republican in the Senate. She voted on a lot of pieces of legislation in the same way I would have, and unlike Collins, she also voted no on Kavanaugh. She was one of 3 senators to save Obamacare. And, in fact, it's actually really funny, because it even seems like she got further to the left when the GOP shafted her. Let me explain. 2010, it was the Senate race in Alaska. She was running for re-election. Meanwhile, a candidate by the name of Joe Miller was running as the Tea Party Republican, whereas she was known as a Rhino, Republican in name only, due to a lot of her more moderate stances on issues like abortion and immigration. She, like Joe Miller, he was like the typical Tea Party conservative, and like his like he got a lot of support from Tea Partiers in Alaska, which, if you know anything about Alaska, is very common to be a Tea Partier due to the fact that they're so like just that state is very Republican. It leans right a lot. It's the only state where libertarians and paleo-conservatives have a big chance of winning. So Joe Miller, he runs against her in the Republican primary, and he even gets the support from Sarah Palin. Sarah Palin, she decides that she's gonna just flat out support Miller and say, "Screw you, Murkowski, you're out." And then Murkowski lost the primary. She lost the primary, and Joe Miller was the Republican candidate. After that, the Libertarian Party of Canada, Libertarian Party of Alaska, they go up to her and say, "Hey, you want to be our candidate?" And she was like, "I don't know." The Libertarian Party of Alaska eventually said, "Nah, we're not going to run you." So, she had a new plan. She was going to run as a write-in candidate. So, people were like, "Come on, you're going to run as a write-in? You're never going to win." She won. I mean, you can't really be more like F you to the Republican Party than that. She ran a write-in candidacy after they voted her out of the election. Like, they voted her out of her nomination. And, well, she basically told the Tea Partiers, "Screw you. You guys are losers." And she did the elf Fortnite dance. And she was even like, and another thing, like, because she actually had like an interesting view of gay marriage. Like, let me explain. 2004, Murkowski voted in favor of a federal constitutional amendment to define marriage between one man and one woman. Then she supports and votes for a bill in 2009 that pretty much like includes gay people to be included in hate crimes. Then she supported the repeal of Don't Ask, Don't Tell. Then during 2010, she was explaining, like, that due to a lot of things that were happening, she was slowly kind of accepting, like, Don't Ask, Don't Tell is really not that good of an idea. Then in 2013, she pretty much was thinking, like, yeah, due to a lot of things that were happening with, like, how the worldview is changing on LGBT rights, I think I'm really accepting the LGBTQ community, and I'm fully on board with gay marriage now. Now think about it. Compare that to Hillary Clinton and her views on gay marriage. One, I believe a marriage is not just a law, not just a bond, but a sacred bond between a man and a woman. Then in 2010, I do not support gay marriage, and then in 2013, I fully support gay marriage. It's like, but for this whole time, there was no indication you were changing your views. Lisa Murkowski, she actually had like time, and you could see that she was slowly shifting her views. Think about it. Like, she was starting off as like, I think gay rights should be between, I believe that marriage is between man and woman. Then you can see, like, she starts repealing Don't Ask, Don't Tell. She starts shifting her views a bit. Granted, it could also be because it was also in 2013 when the polls changed. It could be that. But her votes on gay marriage have been really consistent now, so why bother? Not why bother. If she's lying, then she's lying, and we need to call her out. But at least for me, it seems that her views genuinely seem to shift. So yes, I can technically say without an affinity, like with not much of a doubt, technically Lisa Murkowski is my favorite Republican that is currently in office. But again, she doesn't really have that much competition. Thanks for watching this video. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and click that bell to be notified when a future video of mine comes out. And if you're interested in more political content from me, you can go to my website or follow me on Twitter, Facebook, and Quora. Who's your favorite Republican? Let me know in the comment section below.